Hi everyone, thank you for tuning into the JPI's fundraising live stream. This is a quick reminder for you to click it, the link in our description box below and donate to our COVID-19 crowdfunding campaign in association with Give India, Uplift and Ujala Foundation.
Today we're in conversation with the brilliant Sydney Michuda, a designer, letterer, and illustrator from Milwaukee. Sydney runs her own design shop called Super Creative and has worked with many different companies to create unique brand identities. We're super stoked for this one. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I'm glad to be
Thank you. Okay, so let's move right into the questions. So, our first question is, since you're a freelancer, what do you think is the best part of being one according to you?
here. Yeah, so there's a few things that I like about being a freelancer. One of them being the freedom that you're allowed. So when you work for yourself, you basically get to set your own schedule, pick the clients that you want to work with, and then you get to make your own decisions really too. So when clients come in, you can choose to take those on, you can choose not to. When you're creating something, you basically get to call all those shots and make those decisions for yourself instead of letting someone else dictate what direction you take things in. So it's really nice to just work for yourself and be able to trust your gut that you are in charge and you have that freedom and autonomy.
Right, that's great. So, our next question is, what was your journey into becoming a freelancer?
Yeah, so I graduated school in 2014. From there, I started working at a brand experience agency in Milwaukee. And that was a really interesting first job, but it wasn't exactly for me. It was much more marketing and advertising where I wanted to be more design focused. So after that, I left and started working at a local design firm, which was much more design focused. Basically, you had to be as creative as possible every single day, hit the ground running. And while that was really challenging, it definitely taught me how to think on my feet, be really flexible, and really just work at the top of my game every single day. So I worked there for about 3 years. And then once the pandemic hit, I was let go because a lot of our clients were in the restaurant and hospitality business, and that had to be like completely shut down. But yeah, then I'd say like over the next couple of months, I started trying to gradually build up my own client base. I had some on the side, but definitely nothing considering full time, or no, not enough work to be working a full time job. But over the coming months, I just gathered more and more clients, whether it was through clients or just connections that I. And then I think by October or November, I had enough clients that I was able to be full time, or like working full time essentially, and had clients booked out in advance too. So I knew that like in 2 weeks I wouldn't that I would have work in a couple of weeks still. So yeah. And then since then I've had a lot of work to do, which is really great. And I'm booked out a few months in advance, but it was definitely like a lot of ups and downs, but we're here. Yeah.
So, according to you, what are some of the pros and cons of working as a freelancer as compared to working at an agency?
hmm Yeah. So I'd say kind of reflects to what I said in the first question, where it's really nice to have that freedom and the decision-making capabilities. It is also nice to kind of have that recognition in a sense where you know when people hire you for what you're doing, they're hiring you because they appreciate your specific skill sets, which can be really nice and validating, especially as a creative person. We all appreciate that validation sometimes. Um, but then let's see. Yeah. So I guess some of the cons for being a full-time freelancer is that when you're by yourself, you are responsible for so many other things other than just design. So you have to be your own project manager, account coordinator, accountant, even. You have to do all those different jobs, which take up a lot of time. I'd say maybe 5 to 10 hours of my work week are dedicated to non-design specific tasks, which yeah, it takes up a lot of time. So that's not always the most fun. But Yeah, so I guess one other con would just be that when you're working by yourself, you don't always have the security of a full-time job where you have that full-time job, you know it's going to be there and you know what you're getting paid on a week by week basis. Whereas when you're working for yourself, you have to find those clients yourself. And then sometimes if there's a slow period, you won't always be earning the same amount of money. So just having your finances in a stable place helps. But yeah, that can just be a little bit of a tricky or scary situation sometimes.
It makes a lot of sense. So I think one question that everybody would really love to know the answer to, because we're also budding graphic designers, all of us. We're trying to make it.
Mhm.
And what would be the one advice that you would give to us when it comes to this field of work? How should we make it? And how should we just get out there and start working and get into this field?
Mhm. Yeah, so my biggest piece of advice is just to keep doing it, just keep designing, keep practicing. That's not always the most fun answer or exactly what people want to hear sometimes, but it's really, really true. I remember when I was in school and just like right before I graduated and right after I had graduated, I didn't really understand why I wasn't better, I guess. Like I wanted to be really good, but I just didn't understand why I wasn't there yet. And it's really just because to get good at something, you need to just keep practicing, whether you're like learning how to like do any skill in life, you just need to keep practicing, get those repetitions in, and you'll gradually figure out like the best type pairing systems or the how to properly balance a logo icon with the type below, just all those different techniques. So I think practice is the biggest thing. And then definitely don't hold back from posting things on social media too, whether it's Instagram or Pinterest or Behance, because when you put something out there, it allows you to show the world what you're able to do, and then you can kind of in turn get feedback pretty quickly, and you'll understand what, like, oh, that was a pretty good logo that I designed, or like this was a little bit better than that other thing before. So yeah.
Right. So, being a freelancer and completely independent, how do you promote yourself as being a graphic designer, while being successful and making sure that you reach your full potential?
Yeah, so I'd say promoting yourself, again, kind of what I said before, posting on Instagram, Pinterest, and Vans, possibly Dribble too. I just don't really use Dribble a whole lot, but posting on those sites can be so crucial and important because like it allows you to constantly, it's basically like you have your own portfolio site that the entire world is also looking at, so that you're able to constantly post things, get feedback, grow your following, and then gradually people will start paying attention. And that's how I got a lot of my initial freelance clients too, was through Instagram. So um, once you post these things, you're showing the world what you're capable of. And a lot of times people don't really know what you're capable of until you show them. So you need to post it so they can see that. But yeah, so and then Pinterest, like I said, Behance is a great platform as well. Um, Joining some online communities can be really helpful too. There's this one creative ladies group that I'm a part of, and it's kind of like a directory. And I've had several clients find me through there. That was really important and helpful just for additional outreach. Yeah.
So earlier you mentioned that you spent a lot of time of your week doing other things than just designing. So can you share your daily routine as a full-time graphic designer freelancer?
Yeah, absolutely. So usually I start my morning with some coffee just because I'm not fully awake at that point yet. Um, but and again, since I work at home, I try to mostly like get dressed in a reasonable outfit every day just to make myself feel like I'm a human being. Um, but yeah, so get dressed, get my coffee, sit down at my desk here, and I usually start by just answering emails. Sometimes when I'm really in a creative zone, I don't want to deal with messaging or breaking that focus. So the second half of the day, I usually stop responding and then So in the morning, I pick up responding to those emails again. So responding to emails, and then I start working on some smaller tasks like any edits that came in previously or adjusting a like a web ad, just little things like that. Have some lunch, and then in the afternoon, usually focus on the big tasks. So like phase one of a brand identity, which requires a lot of upfront work and type arrangement, illustration, and just a lot of inspiration searching. Right now, I'm in the middle of a brand identity that I'm in that phase one where I have to create 3 different directions, and it takes a lot of effort to just put your head down and focus on it and not allow yourself to be distracted for hours on end. But yeah, and then by the end of the day, I might circle back to some of those smaller tasks that rolled in throughout the day. But yeah, and then once the evening comes around, sometimes I'll do some smaller projects here and there, but I like to try my best to turn work off by like 6 or 7 o'clock so that I'm not just grinding away all day.
I think that pretty much sounds like everybody's dream, at least ours. We love to do that someday.
Yeah.
But okay, so coming to the next question, we've talked a lot about design and creativity. What is your take on the business aspect of your work? How do you decide on a price for your work? Like when you're starting out, how do you make sure you get to know your own worth? How do you start out like that? Because I think many of us here are confused as well as to how to price your work, how to know the value, how to know your own worth. So what is your take on that, and what advice could you give us budding freelancers?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. And that's something that I just was so confusing to me when I first started too. And I feel like I still haven't quite gotten it right. So it's always a growing process. Um, but I say a good place to start is finding out what an average salary is for someone in your position at like a full-time job. So like I think it's you can just kind of search what an average graphic designer makes per hour. And usually those rates are based on like full-time agency jobs. And if that's the job that you're in, cool, make sure that you're getting paid a decent wage. But if you are a freelancer, usually the benefit of hiring a freelancer is that they're a lot cheaper than hiring an agency. But that's because an agency has all these resources stacked on top of it. Whereas when you're just by yourself, you don't have those. So you have to like pay for software yourself, have all the expenses. So I would say take that like a traditional agency salary that you would make and then add like $5 to $10 on top of that. Just because as a freelancer, you're allowed to charge more because you have more expenses. Yeah. And it's still cheaper than hiring an agency. So just, again, just add like our a little bit more than what the going rate is that you would earn at an agency. And then in terms of quoting for projects, I think it's really important to track your time in like a time tracking software so that you know how long you take to do certain things. Because someone could get an illustration done in 5 hours, but someone else might take 15 or 20. And it's good to know like your general average for those certain tasks. So you can go back and look at your time totals and figure out, okay, this project took me 40 hours. So I know multiply that by my rate, that's how much this is going to cost. So
So, for our last question, what's one challenge that you faced while you were getting into the profession of graphic design?
yeah, so I think one of the biggest challenges, honestly, was impatience. Like I said before, I wanted to be like really amazing and really good right away. And I just didn't understand why that wasn't happening. But yeah, it's just because it takes that experience and that practice to really level up and just grow your skill set. And me being like 21, 22 at the time, I didn't want to do that yet. I just wanted to be there right away. So I had to learn to just take a step back, calm down a little bit, and put my head down and practice. And it eventually, like, your skill set gradually will catch up with where you see yourself and where you'd like to be. And then the other biggest challenge is creative burnout. Um, because in any kind of creative industry, I feel like there's a lot of pressure for you to be really creative all day, every day, from sunrise to sunset. And that's great that some people can do that, but you burn yourself out really quickly and you stop loving what you do and you just kind of gradually run out of gas and run out of steam. So that's definitely a challenge, and it's really helpful to know when that's happening so you can take that step back, take a weekend off or a few days or however long you need to um, just free your mind up again and not be weighed down with all those creative tasks.
I think we all really relate with the impatience thing because everybody's just wanting to get there without just putting in the amount of effort and time it takes. So I think we can all relate to that. So
Yep.
I think we loved listening to you. Absolutely loved the session. And I just wanted to mention Anand and I both watched your Adobe live sessions, and I think I fell in love with them.
It was
I I watched your interview and I sat down and I made my own logo and like let's do it, let's just get started, and it's high time now. So I think you inspired me
Oh,
a lot.
nice.
So yeah,
Oh, I'm so glad that,
that's how
yeah,
you
I'm so glad that you liked it and it was helpful. Yeah, doing those was incredibly nerve-wracking, but I'm just so happy that that other people liked it and they found it helpful and inspiring. That just makes me so happy.
I think if you take a look at my logo, you'll actually think it's inspired from you because I
Nice.
some of the basic techniques that you'd explain in the life. So yeah, so I
Cool.
think we've come to the end of this interview. Thank you so much, Sydney, for joining us. And a quick reminder to everybody to donate by clicking the link in our description box. Our country is in a really big need of resources and oxygen concentrators, and we're trying to provide that. Thank you, Sydney, for helping this cause. Thank you so much. I think it's a big thank you from the student body of our school. And just help us help others. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us.